So for those that have been following along, I know my hair looks horrible right now. I need to wash my hair. Following along with my story and what I've been kind of posting online, which I never in my life thought that I would do, but here we are. Just new developments and things, and I'm sharing this because hopefully, again, there's that quote by Morgan Harper Nichols that says, let the stories of the hills you've climbed be someone else's survival guide. So maybe I won't receive the closure that I deserve, right? Because I feel like I do deserve some closure. And I'm genuinely, like, I'm not kidding when I say, like, I'm, like, legitimately, like, afraid. Like, I ordered pizza. I know people have written me and said, oh, don't order pizza out, you know, not pizza, well, yeah, or don't order food, you know, that's, like, delivered to you because someone could tamper with it. But sometimes they put a tamper-resistant seal on it. So just some new things, because as I traverse the unemployment landscape, I've been avidly trying to find a job, like literally, like every job that I get, and I don't want to complain. And if people say, oh, become your own boss, you know, like do your own thing. And I'm trying really hard to figure out how to do that with very little money. And because I have a lot of ideas. If I could create an app, like I have an idea for an app, have no clue how to go about that because I'm not that tech savvy. But I keep trying to figure out what exactly happened, because, you know, I'm the kind of person where my brain will literally, I don't know, my brain just is constantly tinkering. And what I mean by that is I'm always thinking and I'm trying to figure out ways, like, why things work. Not that I have a toddler brain. You know, toddlers are very, like, innately curious about their world, because just in that developmental stage, that's what's, you know, normal or age appropriate. But the more I try to traverse this situation, you know, if you are someone that gets targeted, and I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and this woman had her kind of own assertions about what targeting is and why it happens, and if it's like you're put through this test and to see your strength and break you down to build you up, kind of thing, you know. Just to see, I guess, what you're made out of. You know, it's a strange phenomena. I never in my life thought I'd be encountering this, but here we are. And what I can say is that whatever's doing it, it's not done out of a place of love. You know, when you treat people with kindness and respect, you don't go, I'm going to break that person down and treat them like shit till they psychologically fall apart, and then they don't want to work, and they think everyone's against them, and then they're hyper vigilant and paranoid. That doesn't come from a place of love. That comes from a place of control. And I just got off a call, and this was just for a 1099 job, like an insurance agent job. And, you know, part of me was even wondering, I'm like, do these people go as far as like trying to set someone up on a date or to get them in a relationship so then that person can off their wife and their spouse because of targeting to sacrifice them, and then they get rich off of a life insurance policy? I'm not kidding. My brain literally went there. I'm not a detective, but my brain went there because I was like, for some reason, I feel like, and this is also part of targeting and gang stalking, there's this perpetual, incessant, what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for? Badgering or insinuating that there's like an imminent death or something like that will happen. That's a really big part of targeting. Now for me though, it's like legitimate. Like when I tell you, like I got water somewhere, and I know you people will go, oh, but if the water is sealed, and I get it, trust me, but I don't know what animal I'm dealing with, you know. I don't know. I mean, I really made a big fuss about what has been happening to me. And, you know, at first, like when I was back home and all this started happening, there was a cop who did give me a identity theft booklet, and I was just confused because I was like, I didn't have any alerts on my account for identity theft. I just was like, that can't be, because I would have been notified. So I did a bunch of people gather together to just create illusions and frighten me, you know, on purpose. And I go, but why would you do that, you know? And if you are someone who's following my channel and you know about what's happened to me and maybe you were in on it, I can't say that I can forgive you automatically, because that happens. But there's a certain level of evil that your soul has to reside in to be able to introduce that type of anguish and strife and trauma. And I've reiterated many times, like, it's such a stark contrast between the life that I had previously to the life that I have now. I would love to believe that it's all fake. I would love to believe that I'm in some like divergent simulation test ground, you know, but that's a very dangerous, lethal. If you've never seen the movie Divergent, I've said this once before in my other videos. She basically, this lady puts these, I was gonna call them tributes, like Hunger Games. You get put into a faction and you have to abide and reside in that faction once you get to a certain age. And there's like candor, abnegation, erudite, dauntless, the factionless, and then there's another one that I can't remember. Amity, I think it is. And let me see what Amity. What's a Viola? It was a Viola Davis. Was it Vivica Fox? What's that woman's name? Her name was. She played the role of Minnie, I think, in The Help. Define amity. Is that the word? Amenity? No, amity. Amity refers to friendly, peaceful, and harmonious relationship. It is a formal term often used to describe mutual understanding, goodwill, and cooperative ties, friendship, harmony. So that was the other one. And so, yeah, but so you have to go to a specific faction, and this is a movie, but like, and it was a book series, but it kind of feels relevant to my situation, kind of, because it's so unfathomable that I'm like, this can't be real, you know, like, it's so crazy, like, to think that I'm in this mess. Like, I literally had everything, and it's just to see your life fall apart right before your eyes, and it's not even your fault, just through psychological warfare and all these things. It's crazy. And then if you speak out about it, you're looked at as like a problem, and I'm like, but it's abusive, you know? It's abusive, and I can't prove half the stuff. That's what makes it so hard, is I can't prove half the stuff that I'm going through. You know, I can't prove, oh, someone's poisoning my food. How am I going to prove that? Am I a chemist? Do I have a lab? You know, I don't have little test tubes. I don't have a cyanide, mercury, thallium test strips. And I shouldn't have to do that. Nobody should have to live like that. Not just me. Forget about gang stalking. Nobody should have to live like that. Imagine if you had to test your food every day just to see. And I promise you, to a normal person who doesn't know about this stuff, I sound crazy. I get that. Trust me, wholeheartedly. I get you. I was a normal person. Like, everything was normal in my life a few years ago. And then now it's like I have to figure out what vendor can I shop from, what grocery store, within the grocery store, what companies are okay. I try to stay conscientious of the ingredients on the back of labels. Like, I'm much more cognizant of that. But like, even just now, I got off a Zoom call with this company that it wasn't a salary position. It was just like it was for life insurance. And I'm not really one, I'll be honest, like, if you put me in any role and I don't know diddly squat about it, I will learn about it. It may not be something that I really am privy to, but I will try my best. Like literally, I would, when I was a server, I didn't know diddly squat about it. I didn't know serving. I didn't, but I learned, and mind you, this is also too, I was around alcohol. Like people were like, I remember when I was like 17, 18, 19, or no, I was like 19 or 20 years old, and I worked at an upscale restaurant called Bricktops in Miami, Florida. And I felt so grown up because it was like my first job that like a first real, like, cause I did serving in like smaller capacities and like delis and not delis, like a little Italian cafe that was a hole in the wall place. And that Bricktops was like my first, it's really, by the way, if you've never been to Bricktops, it is so good. I think the guy's name is Joe Ledbetter. I remember they ingrained that into us. It's like the sister company to Hillstone or Houston's. If you don't know what Hillstone is, then you live under a rock in the hospitality world. It is the premier hospitality group. At least I know in Florida it is. So, and they had also too another restaurant here in Chicago that I really wanted to go to. But anyways, but yeah, Bricktops, that was interesting because that was like I was around like all these different drink types that I'd never heard of before, like Stoli vodka, I didn't know what that was, Jim Beam, Woodford Reserve Double Oak Bourbon. I didn't know any of this stuff because I didn't drink. Like I was very much like excommunicating alcohol, in my life. I just thought no good comes from alcohol. My mottos were no good comes from alcohol and money is the root of all evil. That was literally like from like age 10 to like 27, 28, 29. And now I haven't drunk. I only took a sip of wine with family recently. And so when someone wants to try to, that's another thing with gang stalking people, it's like they'll take something and they'll blow it out of proportion. Like if you love working with kids, they'll say you're obsessed with children. If you love wine in the capacity that I do, in a more of like a craftsmanship, like culinary arts sense, they'll say you're an alcoholic. And I'm like, to be an alcoholic, so moderate drinking, according to national guidelines, is for women, 7 drinks in a week is considered moderate drinking. I haven't really drunk when I was in Vermont, I was buying wine when I would have wine with food, or dinner. So and then I also do, if you ever want to know, when you look at a wine glass, if you put your fingers up to the glass, like 4 ounces is 4 fingers, like that, 3 ounces. So I used to do maybe 3 to 4 ounce pours, sometimes 2 ounce pours, and then add on to that, leading to maybe 1 glass, which was like 6 ounces. So anyhow, but yeah, I forgot why I mentioned Bricktops. Maybe it's because of like selling and hospitality and whatnot. But there was a reason why I mentioned that. But anyways, yeah, it's been very difficult, like finding work and stuff like that. I wouldn't think I'm lazy. I'm tired. I am burnt out. I am exhausted. I feel like some people honestly see this whole thing as a competition, as a game, and I'm like, I'm out here just trying to live my life, I'm trying to live my life. And it's another thing too, is that I think they coach these people on trigger words, on different words that I have that trigger me, and I go, you know what, Ashley, look at it as exposure therapy, meaning like, because like in this thing, life insurance is I realize I'm never going to do that. I realize that's not meant for me. I cannot. Life insurance, if it was like maybe health insurance or like pet insurance, because it's when you're more passionate about something, it's easier to speak to it. It's easier to sell it, right? Because if I'm going to sit there and be like, let me talk about paper, even though it's funny because in The Office in Scranton, if you don't know the show The Office, like, they sell paper. And I'm like, how do you sell paper? I don't know, unless you really are passionate about paper, but I am not passionate about paper. I know it comes from wood pulp, but I'm more passionate about, I love working with kids. You know, that was my thing. And I still, to this day, I don't understand. And I didn't want to get mad at God yesterday or the day before, but I spoke out loud and I go, God, why? Like, why? You know? I go, I did nothing wrong. I definitely didn't do, and in the thing he kept mentioning, this guy kept mentioning about financial crimes. He's like, if you have financial crimes in your background, I'm like, bitch, I was like, I was recruited by the FBI. You know, like, what the fuck? I laughed at that to myself. I go, Ashley, remember, like, if there was any skeletons in my closet that I don't know about, I think someone would tell me. So I do think there's a group of people that don't like me very much for whatever reason, and they wish to, like, people are mean. They will go to such great lengths. And the scary part, let me tell you this, the scary part is people that are in a position of authority. Because there are some, and I used to think that all police officers were nice and all military people were nice. No. Do not be like me. It's sometimes better to be realistic, and I don't like it to think myself as Delulu, but sometimes I'm like, I try to see the good in everyone. But there are police officers, like, look at George Floyd, right? If we remember George Floyd when he said, I can't breathe. Trayvon Martin, he was profiled because he had a hoodie on and then he got shot. Breonna Taylor, I think her name was. You know, all of these people, anti-Semitism. Like, now I don't really know, I hate saying race and I'm white, so I don't know. I've thought about that. I go, is there a prejudice component to what's going on with the targeting? Because I still don't understand. You know, I don't have a big social media following. I'm not trying to get a big social media following. I wanted to get my story out there because I'm scared for my life and my safety. There are people who could literally if you people think that there are not people that could go and put shit in your water and your food, then you people are cuckoo bananas, because there are people that do that. When someone wants someone gone in a very stealthy way, there's mafia, there's mobs. Now, how I would get involved in that, I don't know, because I've never been involved in those worlds. My world was teaching, like preschool kids, hospital stuff as a child life specialist, serving. Those were my niches, and teaching yoga, kids yoga. And then all of a sudden, because I do a police report on someone, my entire life goes to shit. Literally, that's the gist of it. So if you haven't watched any of my other videos, that's, and I did not want to make my YouTube channel about that. Literally, that's the last thing I wanted to do. I was supposed to be either graduated from OT school by now, working, getting hours as an occupational therapist, either at a clinic with kids, getting those hours in, maybe later on having a mentee, like a practicum student, and then maybe going into private practice. That's what I wanted to do. Or maybe partner up and collaborate with, you know, I don't know, a developmental specialist or a psychologist or something, you know. And now I am like destitute, nearly, I don't mind saying it, I'm nearly almost homeless. And I'm trying to figure out how to stay afloat. I do surveys to make money. And if you say, oh, stay with family, I tried to reconnect with family recently. Other side of family that I haven't spoken to ever in my life, really, in years. And I'm even skeptical about that because I don't know what's being said, you know, about me. And people that don't know my story, like the whole food poisoning thing, right? Like, if people saw me in the street, they'd be like, oh my God, she has an eating disorder, she's anorexic, no, bitch, I love food. I love food. I do Yelp. I just did a bunch of Yelp reviews. I love cookies, cupcakes. I know that's not really good for you, but I never used to have issues with those things. Sorry, my lips are very dry. And now everything I eat, like I just drink some water, I feel like I have a lump in my throat, you know, and what else? You know, there's certain foods I go, what can I eat? And I go, what did I do? And I go, God, why? Is this a test? Like, when is this gonna stop? Because I feel like I'm slowly being poisoned. And then today on the Zoom call, it's just weird, you know, and this is what I mean by targeting, right? Because with phone hacking and stuff, they could see what's coming up on your agenda. They can see what organizations you're involved in or what companies you're applying to. And I don't know who would sit up in the daytime and go, let me try to psychologically F with this woman. And the things this guy in the meeting was using, and I don't want to put him down, and it could have been a coincidence, but he was using a lot of trigger words that are words like the word hit, like when someone puts a hit out on someone, execute, pass, like passing. Funeral's not really one of them, but like he was talking a lot about like, oh, if you whatever, and who's gonna cover your expenses like when you're gone. And I'm like, I don't want to listen to this anymore. No offense to him. It's just, I don't think that would be a good field for me to go into anyways, just because people would be talking about their loved ones. And also you have to pay for leads. I didn't know you have to buy leads. I've never heard of that before, about buying leads. Like in sales, if you know what I mean, if you've done sales, I've never heard about people buying leads before. Like I was like, I can't afford that. So the word trap too. Trap is, oh, that was another one. The word trap was used. So it's scary, you know. It's all very negative, ominous stuff. The words hit, execute, trap, tips and tricks, all this stuff. You know, and it's funny because people don't realize, I guess when you're, like, my natural inclination is not to go, hey, how can I undermine someone and sabotage someone's life? I don't think like that. I don't get how anyone could. Like, could you, if you watch this video, like, could you do that? Unless your heart is cold and somber. I mean, you're looking at a person, I've went through a lot of shit in the past 6 years. I've walked into, I think, rooms with clouds of either fentanyl or mercury or possible cyanide. And you think you'd be dead. No, yeah, I almost did die. It took a lot of willpower for me to go, Ashley, focus, stay alive, keep going. And what better way to try to hurt someone, right? Think about it. What better way? I can't prove it. Therein is the truth. Am I going to go around wearing a gas mask on my face? And this is with a door. I remember in Indiana, this was with a door I had wide open to the basement of an Airbnb. And I sensed a weird vapor and it smelled funny, and then I had to run and get fresh air, and I felt like I was almost about to faint. That's not normal, folks. So either someone put a target on my back because I don't know why, and I've heard a lot about the chosen ones and this and that and whatever, and I go, but why? See, this is my conundrum. Police officers have, and I would assume, you know, federal agencies and stuff, even organizations that are not maybe like government contracted and whatnot. Like I'm talking about like security companies that are not necessarily, it's hot. Security companies that are not necessarily, you know, feds or whatever, but like, you know, the ones that are contracted by said groups, because I'm sure that they have government contracts and stuff, and I don't want to put down the government. I'm not like that. I don't care if there's people in the government that don't like me. I'm not going to put down the government. I like my 6th grade social studies view of government, and I'm going to keep it that way. You know, Boston Tea Party, not civil war is not a good thing. Take that back. But, you know, I enjoyed that perspective of it. And my world, I have to live in a world where I have to check food. I have to be skeptical about what I eat. I mean, like, I feel like I'm being slowly poisoned. I need to put my hair up because my hair's so, that's another thing. I get scared about the water in my building, and I know I've had people go, oh, but it's a universal well. No, it's not true. When you're targeted, someone could try to rig that so they have, you know, you have your own aquifer or well. But think about it. What would be the perfect way to, I mean, I'm not like a forensic psychologist, but what would be the perfect way to take someone out? Poison. Slowly poisoning them over time. And then you go and they go to the doctor and you know, they go, hey, you know, I don't really feel good. I feel weak all the time, and I have these heart palpitations and fluctuations. They'll go, oh, you have anxiety. Those are hallmark symptoms of anxiety. And I'm like, yeah, but how do you explain numbness and tingling, blurry vision? Oh, maybe you have diabetes. Yeah, but my HbA1c, I've checked it out, and metabolically speaking, I know the physiology behind it. You know, I know how insulin resistance works. I know that coincides with PCOS, but, you know, pretty sure my pancreas works pretty decently. I've suspected once diabetes way back, because numbness, peripheral neuropathy, optic neuritis, things like that. Those are all things that are byproducts of diabetes. There's type 1 and type 2 diabetes. One is where your body doesn't produce enough insulin. One is where you have insulin, but it can't get into, because insulin is what helps glucose get into your cells. If you don't know what diabetes is, that's the way as a child life specialist, I called diabetes basically diabetes. I called insulin the key to unlock the door of the little cells to let the glucose in. And then when you have high glucose, there's a lot of issues with that. You can have diabetic ketoacidosis, which is DKA, and then you can end up in the ICU, and you can have hyperglycemia. Hypoglycemia is when you have your hypoglycemic index, and all that. So HbA1c. So I know my shit, not to be like whatever, but like I know my stuff. So it doesn't help to come from a medical background and being targeted, because your mind will literally go in all these different directions to try to figure out what's going on. You just know in your gut and your heart that people are not being nice. And to do it perpetually every single day. Like, folks, it's not like I just want to like pick on her. It's like, imagine someone putting thallium or arsenic in your food. And then you get medical testing done, and then they call the company, or maybe a hacker changes the numbers, because that's possible too. You know, hackers can do that. If you don't think so, anything that has a remote signal can be hacked. I learned this because when I was researching everything that I started going through, I was like, like literally remote controlled toys, those cars can be hacked. Cars can be hacked because they're like computers. Think of a Tesla. Tesla has computers in it, right? The whole like iPad thing, that can be hacked. So that is my norm. And for people that want to sit back and be like, yeah, but we want to test you. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm trying to live a normal life. I have bills to pay. I have Chase Bank payment plans that I have to pay. I have Venmo. I put all my rent on a credit card because at one point, I don't mind sharing this with people, which, word to the wise, by the way, when you have credit line, do not assume that is your money, because it's technically not. That's the bank's money. But me, because my financial literacy is kind of low, I thought, oh, that's my money. I have money. No, it's not your money. It's the bank's money that they lend you, because if you have credit, they give you this like credit line. And so I was like, oh, I have money. So like when I was unemployed, I was like, oh, I'll just use my credit cards and then I'll pay it back when I get a job. And then a year went by and I was like, nope, there's no job. Okay. I'm like, and then, the minimums start getting higher. Then I learned about interest rates, and I was like, they tack on a fee if you don't pay the bill. And you could say, oh, well, why don't you learn this stuff in school? And your parents teach you. Man, my parents kind of taught me, but I didn't really think about that, because when I was 6-7 years ago, I didn't really spend money frivolously. I was very much the person that was like, we had this mall called Dadeland Mall in Miami. That was like one of my favorite malls to go to. We also had Merrick Park. Merrick Park was the bougie, fancy mall. Dadeland Mall is like the everyone's person's mall. Then there was also Mall of the Americas in like, I don't know if it was Doral. The more like, you know what I mean, like the not low-end stores, but like Dadeland Mall was my go-to place. It's where I learned about Misha's Cupcakes, which, by the way, if you're ever in Miami, Florida, please go to Misha's Cupcakes. They are the bomb.com. That's just my opinion. And she went to FIU. I forgot. Oh, Misha Curlia, that's her name. I will always sing Misha's Cupcakes praises as long as I live. I actually wanted to work there at one point, to be like a cashier Like, I would be happy right now if I got a job as a bakery assistant, but because of targeting, you know, and coworkers, you don't know who's easily persuaded to, you know, hurt you. I would get a job at Starbucks. I freaking love Starbucks. I will always sing Starbucks praises, even if they come after me. I don't even know why Starbucks will come after me, because I love Starbucks. But growing up, they had the best. They had these Oreo cookie bars, and they have the best little cake pop thingies. I've tried to like recreate those, like copycat. I've seen them on Pinterest. When things are normal again, which I pray to God one day they will be, I don't know. I'm very hopeful. I'm very in the, you know, Disney World Delulu kind of state of mind where I'm like, anything is possible, Audrey Hepburn kind of thing, because I don't take no for an answer, you know. I believe in truth. I believe in integrity. I believe in honesty. But yeah, Starbucks is pretty kick-ass. I'm not gonna, and I have not been to, I've been to Starbucks once since I moved to Chicago, and there's a Starbucks like literally right down the corner, and it's really cute and it smells really good. But because of targeting, I don't know, someone could say, hey, she's coming over, because they hack your phone, or they're like, go put the stuff in the stuff or whatever, and I'd be like, and when I mean stuff that can like sedate you and knock you out and kill you. I shouldn't smile about that because that's not a good thing. But yeah, it's the employment thing is very, no pun intended, tricky. I hate that word too. And part of me is just like, I feel for people who wake up in the morning and their sole purpose is to undermine and sabotage another human being. How miserable do you have to be to have a soul or an outlook like that? You know what I mean? Because people that watch TI's day to day, they know. You know, they know my whereabouts. They know what I'm like, my trigger. They could probably predict my behavior before I even do it. Predictive analysis or whatever. But I don't know. Part of me is I don't know. I have a lot of faith. I've seen so much good in the world that I'm not gonna let that go. I've met some really wonderful families and people when I worked in hospitals and I was a server, and good people. Like I remember there was a couple, I'm not gonna say their last name, but like when I was a server, and when I did serve, I tried to treat people with like the utmost respect. I treated people like as if I was being waited on, and I go, how would I like to be met by somebody, and greeted warmly and cordially with